At 3:42 a.m., my garage security system flashed with a silent alarm. Not a raccoon, nor a joyriding teenager, but a 5'6" middle-aged woman pulling a city-grade storage crate across my floor. The thermal camera picked her heat signature, tiptoeing by a reinforced door, concealing a prototype sonic disruptor military tech wired to respond to vibrations. I bolted upright in bed, staring at the monitor. "You chose the wrong garage," I grumbled, pulse racing. This wasn't the first time anyone had trespassed on my property, but it would be the last time they did so without them getting in trouble. I'm Marcus, a defense contractor who maintains his privacy. My home lies on the fringe of a quiet suburb, far enough from the prying eyes of the HOA to remain below the radar. Or so I'd thought. That morning on Saturday, I drink coffee on my porch, observing a jogger avoid a trash can discarded by HOA President Vanessa, the neighborhood's self-proclaimed dictator of lawn decorations and mailbox positioning. She'd been a thorn in my side for months, but I managed to avoid her wrath until I saw my garage padlock, a unique magnetic pattern I'd designed dangling by a distorted shank. Someone hadn't simply tampered with it, they'd torn it apart. I opened the door to the garage and stood transfixed. 5 steel crates embossed with the HOA logo were piled almost to the ceiling. A cheap tag on the top crate said, "Emergency Storage HOA Board." Only, my garage is not a parking space. It's a locked-up lab for non-lethal crowd control models with a biometric vault hiding equipment that could knock a linebacker flat without a scratch. And now it was Vanessa's private warehouse. My phone rang. It was Lisa, my neighbor. "Did they hit your house too?" she asked, voice trembling. She told me that the HOA had been storing emergency equipment in miscellaneous garages for weeks. No notice, no consent, just some nebulous safety program. Vanessa said she had verbal consent. She never asked me. I said, jaw clamped. I texted Vanessa. No response. I phoned the HOA office voicemail. By late afternoon, I cornered Vanessa at her home, where she was lining up pebbles with surgical precision. "Care to explain why my garage is your storage facility?" I asked. She hardly glanced up. "HOA operations temporary for community safety. You broke my lock. That's illegal." She smiled. "Not if it's for the community. We figured your garage was empty. I reside here." She pushed me away. "You're not precisely HOA material." "Marcus, be a good neighbor." That expression struck like a spark to gasoline. I don't brag about my business creating systems which can disorient a mob without discharging a shot, but I don't respond well to intruders. Home again, I looked in the vault. Everything remained untouched except that one crate had been pushed against a proximity sensor connected to a prototype pulse emitter, a firmer push, and it might have caused leaving an intruder blind and deaf for days. The sensor log indicated a near activation at 3:40 a.m. I pulled the footage, Vanessa wearing a black hoodie and gloves, pulling a crate, stumbling and leaning on the sensor wall. The screen flashed orange 1 inch from catastrophe. That night, I rigged a secondary motion alert and waited. At 3:42 a.m., it pinged again. Infrared indicated Vanessa anxiously maneuvering another case. She stood still as the wall lights flashed, the system initializing. I terminated it remotely, but my blood raged. This was no error. Height was reckless arrogance. I spent the following day cataloging the crates. These were not flood supplies, radios, barricade pieces, sensor modules, some stamped Federal Emergency Coordination Program, a radio's barcode connected to decommissioned training equipment never legally transferred. The HOA had no business with it. An inventory sheet included my address leases and others indicated cleared with a note. Key access through utility box override. Vanessa was intentionally bypassing locks. I called Lisa. Did she request to store anything, just a flyer on preparedness? She said my garage was open for repairs. I didn't investigate what they left. Vanessa was counting on apathy. I called the HOA again, reaching Carl, the operations liaison. "Why is federal gear in my garage?" I questioned, silence followed by a stammer. "Karen, Vanessa told me it was approved. I never consented. My garage is a defense lab. You're fortunate nothing provoked." Another pause. "I'll raise it," he grumbled, hanging up. An hour later, a boilerplate HOA email promoted a temporary storage program dripping with pseudo-legal ease. They were desperate. I walked the block collecting stories. Mrs. Chin spotted HOA members in her driveway at 2 a.m. The Parkers' garage was utilized without warning. No permissions, just silent intrusions. I constructed a report, footage box, photos, timestamps, sensor logs in the format of a military incident file. The last photo was Vanessa gazing into my infrared lens mid-trespass. Then there was her accompanying attack, a letter accompanying me to my mailbox, HOA letterhead accusing me of illegal surveillance and non-standard electrical modifications. It was signed with her blearing scroll. "You're not exempt from the rules." I chuckled. My cameras were within the law, my grid certified for defense work. She was frantic. I presented a redacted report to 5 neighbors, all victims. They signed up for a formal complaint. Then Tim, a reticent board member, arrived. "Karen's moving crates without votes," he murmured. "She insisted FEMA approval, but there is no evidence. I'll stand by you at the meeting." The cracks in Vanessa's kingdom were broadening. I wasn't finished. I established a soft engagement in the garage, a deactivated pulse emitter shell with flashing LEDs, a vibration mat, and a strobe deterrent. I left the door cracked, tempting her. At 2:07 a.m., she took the bait rolling in a crate. The mat triggered, strobes blazed, the dummy emitter hummed. Vanessa screamed, dropped the dolly, and tripped over pots I'd staged, fleeing without a shoe. By morning, a new violation notice accused me of threatening installations. I slipped it back in her mailbox with my city exemption for defense testing. Then I posted a blog, Suburban Security, when authority oversteps, describing her break-ins without mentioning her. It blew up 3,000 shares, defense forums humming. Vanessa's story was disintegrating. The HOA's attorney wrote a letter demanding I turn over hazardous prototypes. I sent it to Agent Torres, my federal contact, with my proof. Feds don't like civilians intimidating contractors. Torres showed up checking the crates. She used a utility bypass tool. He said that's criminal trespass. He requested an audit of the gear's beginnings. Vanessa, desperate, ranted door-to-door calling me a spy and accusing me of planting crates. A viral video of her meltdown yelling on a lawn tanked her credibility. Comments read, "She broke into a Mission Impossible's garage and cried foul. The HOA meeting was electric. Every seat was taken. Residents buzzing. Vanessa strutted in, smirking, unaware." Tim grasped my evidence. I stood plugged in my drive and began. "My garage was breached by the HOA," I said, displaying Vanessa on infrared dragging crates. Gasps erupted. I showed the equipment, federal grade, undocumented. These were inches from my defense systems, risking injury. No vote, no consent, just lock bypasses. Vanessa jumped up. "Those pictures are illegal. We have storage rights." "Not in private homes," I snapped. Tim stood. "She never put this to a vote. Said FEMA approved, but there's no evidence." The room erupted. I showed the near activation log. Then Vanessa, looking at the camera. "Guilty agent." Torres moved forward. "I'm with Homeland Tech Compliance. This is misuse of federal documents. We're probing." Vanessa paused, accusing me of a sting. Torres cut her off. "Crates were in several houses undocumented." The onlookers yelled, "You lied." Tim waved to adjourn Vanessa. 5 hands raised, she yelled, "I created this HOA and stormed out by myself." 3 weeks later, the neighborhood breathed easier. No more citations, no clipboard patrols. Vanessa resigned as audits revealed her plan. Redirected HOA money for beautification. Purchased excess equipment that had been sitting in garages. I had a tech demo demonstrating my system, sonic barriers, alarms, while repeating Vanessa's footage. Neighbors snickered. Amazed, Tim, now in charge, invited me to consult on property rights standards. I agreed with the caveat of a privacy provision. Torres verified Vanessa was hit with civil sanctions with additional pending. Her house sold quietly. She departed without fanfare. The feds invited me to be part of a security integration pilot, Choi-proof writers who wrote, I accepted with the caveat ironclad property protections. My garage, once a fortress, became a model for safe defense. Neighbors joked, "Don't mess with Marcus's garage." T-shirts read, "Ask before you store." I framed one in my workshop. The community flourished open garages. Real votes, no fear. I still watch the tape, not out of spite, but to remember when Vanessa underestimated me. She believed I was a loner. She didn't know I take down threats for a living with tech truth and a garage that fights.